All right, everybody, welcome back to Courtroom Conversations.
Yes, welcome back.
You're here with us on the Classic Courtroom YouTube channel.
That's right.
Make sure while you're here, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more of these deep dives.
Yeah, definitely do that.
I'm Dylan Brooks Hamilton.
And I am Susan Kelly Ashford.
And we are diving deep today.
Deep.
Into a case that's about to be heard by the highest court in the land.
The Supreme Court.
That's right.
Yes.
With some serious implications for public health, especially for young people.
Public health is always a big concern.
It really is.
Especially with this one.
Especially with this case, because it all revolves around flavored vapes and the FDA's attempts to regulate them.
It's a very interesting case.
It is a fascinating case.
Especially because...
Especially considering a new presidential administration's about to take over.
Yes.
And they might have a completely different approach to vaping.
Exactly.
So to set the stage, for those of you just joining us, let's think back to the early 2020s.
Okay.
When teen vaping rates absolutely skyrocketed.
They did. They really went up.
It was a huge concern.
Huge concern.
All these young people getting hooked on e-cigarettes.
Yes.
Particularly those with enticing flavors.
Enticing flavors, that's right.
Like bubblegum mango.
That's right, cotton candy, all kinds of things.
Anti-tobacco groups were sounding the
They
alarm.
were very concerned.
And eventually the FDA stepped in.
They did.
So how did they try to restrict the sale of these flavored vapes?
Well, they didn't outright ban them.
Okay.
It wasn't a ban across the board.
Got it.
But they used their authority under the Tobacco Control Act to try and regulate these products more tightly.
Okay.
So essentially what they did is they made it much more difficult for companies to sell flavored e-cigarettes without going through a really rigorous approval process.
Okay.
And they had to demonstrate that their products wouldn't appeal to youth or negatively impact public health.
That makes sense. So how did the vaping industry respond to that?
They pushed back.
They did.
A lot of pushback.
Really?
They argued that these flavors weren't aimed at kids at all.
Okay.
That a lot of adults who are trying to quit smoking traditional cigarettes rely on those flavors to help them transition away from tobacco.
Interesting.
The variety mimics that sensory experience of smoking, makes the switch more palatable.
So their argument is that flavored vapes actually contribute to reducing smoking rates.
That is their argument, and they do have some studies to back them up, showing that adult smokers who use flavored e-cigarettes might have a higher chance of quitting traditional cigarettes compared to those using unflavored options.
Interesting.
It is.
So this whole debate, of course, ended up in court.
Naturally.
What happened there?
Well, it's been a real legal tug-of-war.
Okay.
Several lower courts sided with the FDA, upholding their right to regulate these products.
Okay.
But then there's this case that throws a bit of a wrench into things.
Yeah.
The case of Triton Distribution.
Ah, yes. The makers of Jimmy the Juice Man in Peachy Strawberry.
Yes.
Can we talk about that name for a second?
What about it?
It seems a little youth-oriented, don't you think?
Well, that's exactly what some critics argue.
Yeah.
They say that the name itself suggests that the product is targeted towards a younger demographic.
Yeah.
It really highlights the challenge
I see.
the FDA faces in trying to determine whether a product's marketing, including its name and flavor, genuinely appeals to youth.
But couldn't you also argue that plenty of adult products use playful or whimsical branding?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about some of the craft beer names out there.
Exactly. It's not always so black and white.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuance.
There is.
And in the case of Triton Distribution, they were able to successfully appeal a lower court's ruling.
They were?
They argued that the FDA hadn't adequately demonstrated that their flavored vape posed a specific threat to youth.
Wow.
And now the case is going to the Supreme Court.
To the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
And now we have a potential wild card.
Oh, yes.
A new president taking office who has publicly stated his support for the vaping industry.
It's a very interesting twist.
It really is.
Looking back, the FDA was actually quite slow to regulate the vaping industry as it rapidly grew into a multi-billion-dollar market.
Wow.
And even now,
Yeah.
with certain flavored vapes technically illegal, they're still pretty easy to come by.
That's the problem.
It is.
Enforcement.
Exactly. And now with the new administration that may be more sympathetic to the vaping industry,
Right.
the entire landscape of regulation could shift.
It could.
We might even see a rollback of some of the FDA's restrictions or perhaps a different approach to enforcement altogether.
So where does this leave us?
We are at a crucial juncture.
We are.
We have a Supreme Court decision looming that could significantly shape how vaping is regulated in this country.
For sure.
We have a new president who may usher in a different era of vaping policy. And at the heart of it all, we have a public health issue that's far from settled.
That's right. And if the Supreme Court sides with the vaping companies and loosens restrictions, what kind of message does that send to young people, especially those who might be tempted to try these products?
It's a very important question.
It is.
And something we all need to consider carefully.
We do.
Very carefully.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, folks.
Yes. Thank you for listening.
We'll see you next time, right here on the Classic Courtroom YouTube channel.
That's right.
Make sure you like and subscribe.
And leave a comment.
Yeah. Let us know what you think about this case down below.
We'd love to hear from you.
See you later.
Bye.